You are listening to the Showbiz Side Hustle podcast, powered by PerformerPreneur. I am your host here, Nicole Louise Geddes, and together we'll be delving into all of the ways that a showbiz side hustle can support you now and long into the future. So sit back, relax, and listen in, and together let's get inspired to take action to create the life, future, and business of your dreams. This episode is sponsored by the Showbiz Side Hustle Handbook, available on Kindle and in paperback over on Amazon. Follow the simple tasks laid out over 3 easy-to-action sections and effectively build a strong business foundation for a successful showbiz side hustle. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Showbiz Side Hustle podcast. Today's episode is a member spotlight where I bring into the room somebody awesome that I am working with, that I have watched grow, succeed, pivot, and there's no better performerpreneur to inspire and delight you all than Kitty Campari. Some of you may know her as Jen, or the coach inside the Successful Showgirl. So welcome, Kitty. It is amazing to have you here. You have done some phenomenal things over the past 4 years, as I've watched you grow from a Manic Stage Productions performer, like you were one of my team before the pandemic, and then that pandemic pivot that's took you on the most extraordinary journey, building multiple businesses, and then becoming a mother and having all of this sat working for you whilst you can dedicate your time to your beautiful little girl. So I think it's going to be an inspirational episode. And as I say, I'm super grateful for your friendship, for your skills, for your being part of the membership and the collaboration and everything that goes on in the community. And I know you've got your own community, so we'll touch on that too. So please do, because I could talk about you all day, tell everybody yourself, who you are and what you do.
Okay, so my name is Kitty Campari. I'm a professional burlesque and circus performer. I also run multiple circus and dance related businesses. So I've got a coaching business for performers. I've got a circus school, I've got an entertainment company, and I've got some teacher training companies as well, which are UK-wide, where we train circus instructors and we train burlesque instructors as well. So all related, but different branches.
Different branches. One big kind of umbrella of your particular knowledge and niche. And I've been talking in the past few episodes about knowledge gaps, fear of not knowing everything, but also about niching and using the knowledge you do have to really narrow down who you're trying to serve and what you're trying to do. Add to that, we were talking about vision, and I know you've got huge visions, and you've always had huge visions, and you took action on those visions. So I'd be really interested to hear later on in the episode what they were, what they have become, and where they're going. But first of all, let's touch on that knowledge element of the past few episodes, because I hope you won't mind me saying, and said with love, because none of us know everything. You didn't, and you wouldn't, and you couldn't have known everything about business, about the industry when you first started, but it didn't stop you, Kitty. So what are your thoughts on not necessarily knowing everything? It hasn't stopped you, but what would you say to the listeners to encourage them to push through and learn as they go?
Okay, so firstly, nobody knows everything, even people who have been in the industry for years and years and years, or been in business for years and years and years, because things are always changing. So you're always, I feel like in anything, you need to be open to learning and continuous professional development. I think that is the way forward with anything. And I'm massively into that. I've always been into that. I've always, probably because I get bored after so long and I want to try something else and I want to learn something new, I'm always like doing something new as time goes on. So I feel like you don't have to know everything to start anything, but you do have to be open to learning, whether that be learning for free on YouTube videos or reading or whatever, or investing in courses. Like I must have spent thousands and thousands and thousands of pounds over like just the past 4 years in courses, let alone over like the whole of my career. You've got to learn from new people, you've got to learn new skills, like, and you've also got to create a community where you share skills as well. I think that's really important as well. Like obviously I'm in PerformerPreneur, but there's lots of performers who do openly share skills, ideas, marketing ideas, all kinds of different things. I feel like that's really, really important. keeping things to yourself just works against you, in my opinion.
Well, and I speak about this often, both in the membership, over in my free group, here on the podcast. There's so many gatekeepers across all industries. And I understand why there's a scarcity mindset with some people, but actually it doesn't have to be like that. And you've mentioned community, and I know you have your own community, and the same as I have mine, and we share. There's no, in my eyes, there's really no need for competition, because when you niche, which is what I'm going to ask you about next, you become that go-to person for the people that need what you are offering and your services and what you are saying. So your knowledge and sometimes lack of, but obviously that understanding and ability to learn, to lean in, to ask questions, led you very much down a path where I would say you are quite specifically niched because of the information and the understanding and the knowledge that you started with, which was the entertainment industry, but very nichely in the circus and burlesque world. And you then opened up your community, and that is what you share with them, because it's what you know, and it's what is the foundation of you, regardless of what went on after and how much more you've grown and learned. So my message to the listeners is, what do you know? That's what I've said to them in previous episodes. What do you know? What do you love? What is the core of you? And then is there a business idea that can stem from that? So you spoke about community. I love a community. I think it's part of the growth process. I think it's part of the learning. And I think to be surrounded by people that are on the same journey as you is super important. And your community is very niched to what you have just told us about not gatekeeping the industry and being a new performer. So just before I ask you about that, I want to do a little mic drop. Kitty started performing professionally a lot later than most. So again, I believe, watching your journey and hearing your story, that did also guide you towards this niche of serving wannabe professional performers. So please do tell us about that.
Okay, so originally I was always a dance teacher. I trained as a dance teacher when I was like 17. However, I went off to uni to train to be a doctor, and I did do my whole 5 years. I graduated, but then I decided that wasn't like the path that I wanted to follow. The path that I wanted to follow was teaching dancing. I'd never had any passion for performing at all, or so I thought. I just wanted to teach, and I really enjoyed, like, I had a studio for about 10, 12 years, and I really enjoyed running that studio. I loved teaching. I still love teaching. But as I was getting closer to 30, maybe it was like a mini midlife crisis, I don't know. I was like, I really want to perform. I've never done it. And if I never do it now, I probably am never going to have like the guts to do it. So I'm going to just do it. And I just set up a performer name. I set up a profile. And I just did, and it just went from there. But I used my business knowledge of running a dance studio for like however many years to run being a performer like a business. So even though I didn't know the ins and outs of how you would become a performer, I did know the ins and outs of how to create a brand, how to market yourself, how to like create connections, how to be professional, all those things that I've learned. How to communicate. It was another thing that's massive in like training to be a doctor, how to communicate with people and build rapport with people. I've used all those things in becoming a performer, and then subsequently in like all the businesses afterwards as well. So you just, anything that you've learned over time, gathering information, you can bring into your performing or your side hustle or whatever. You just need to think how you can transfer that knowledge that you've already got and then build on it, because building on it is important as well.
So I'm laughing to myself here because you just very flippantly popped in that you trained to be a doctor for 5 years. So I know that my listeners are like, you say what? So yes, Kitty trained to be a doctor, and now she's a burlesque performer. I love that. I mean, we talk about performers that pivot, and there is no bigger pivot than doctor to burlesque performer. I think it's fantastic. And the fact that you had this knowledge from past experiences that you then programmed and pushed and honed also led you to then use that kind of understanding that no one was telling you these things. Luckily for you, you were happy to find out, you were happy to learn and ask. But I know from our conversations over the years, nobody was openly giving you that information. And that's why when you transitioned to professional performer and it all worked out for you, you were then, hold on a minute, let's help some people take that step because not everybody has the courage to ask for help. So you just started giving it freely, which I absolutely love. So how have you found that to work for you, that niche of just, you know, supporting performers before they become professional, giving them the knowledge? Have you had any backlash, Kitty?
Yeah. So firstly, like you just touched on there about not being scared to ask and things like that. Whereas I feel like I probably was scared to ask other performers what to do, but I wasn't scared to like make mistakes and get things wrong and then learn from it. So over the years, I've learned from all those mistakes, and I've seen people doing the same mistakes that I was doing and getting backlash for it. So I just wanted to help people that were new not have to put up with that, because it's not very nice when your idols who you've like looked up to for ages aren't very nice to you, etc. So that was like the first thing I wanted. I didn't specifically think of, oh, this is going to be my niche. It was just, oh, that's like something that I hated when I joined the industry, so I'm going to help people not deal with that. And then again, the same kind of people that weren't very nice at the beginning of that weren't very nice when I started the Successful Showgirl, because they didn't think I should be giving that information away for free, etc., which I completely am the opposite of. I don't see why you wouldn't give that information out. If you're a really successful performer, then you shouldn't be worried that anyone's going to step on your toes. I don't worry that anyone's going to come in and step on my toes. And if they do, then that's an indication for me that I need to up my game. I need to be better. I need to provide better services to my clients, whatever. So yeah, a big thing is being resilient and not allowing people to boss you around or tell you how things should be done just because they've done it that way. You can gather information from your own sources, and you can make your own path. You don't have to follow like what one person says to do. And that's what I did in mine. And then that's what I offer for my clients. I basically say, this is how I've done it, but I would never say to them, that's the only way to do it. There's lots of people you can go to and find out for yourself.
It's so inspiring, because people listening will literally be thinking, you know, doctor to performer coach. It just feels like you've done a lot, and you know, rightly so, you're an inspiration. But I don't want anyone listening to think that, you know, this is an easy journey. Like, you have worked hard. You've said that you're happy to do the research, to join communities, to ask questions, to have a mentor, to do courses. And so I think that's a little bit of what we're saying throughout this whole podcast. Like, find those bits of the puzzle that you just need reaffirming, or you need to evaluate, or be curious about yourself, and make sure that you're filling in those gaps, be that knowledge or courage or confidence or mindset. And so moving on to the vision, because you said it wasn't necessarily what you set out to do. You, like me, at the beginning of the pandemic, probably couldn't sit still. You were like, I need to do something. I need to feel like I'm doing something. I need to wake up with purpose every day. So I believe that your community, the Successful Showgirl, was born out of the same kind of uncertainty that mine was, and just that kind of energy to keep going. But it has then led on to so many other things that you didn't necessarily even plan for. So yeah. How do you evaluate the vision back then to the vision now? What's in the vision to in the future? Any thoughts on kind of keeping moving and going and not getting stagnant, but equally not having overwhelmed? There's so much that you think you want to and can do, but it takes longer than maybe people can see on Insta. And that's not a dig at you, that's a dig at Insta.
Yeah, so at first the vision was very simple. It was, I'm bored, I'm in COVID, I've got nothing to do, and I keep seeing all this like shade towards new performers, particularly at that time, because obviously work was scarce, wasn't it? There was no work for people who've been doing it for a long time. So I saw a lot of people saying new performers shouldn't be taking established performers' jobs and things like that, which I think is rubbish. Like, whoever gets the job gets the job. You're within your rights. So that's why I started it. There was no real massive vision down the road to make it into a business. It was literally just, I've got time, I'm just going to give people a little bit of advice and stuff like that to keep them going. But then it kind of snowballed into basically giving one-to-ones, creating a course, then I created a membership, and now do like retreats, and we have a massive conference once a year. But that wasn't my initial vision. But then obviously like 6 months in, I was like, oh, we could do this, or oh, I'd love to do a retreat in like 10 years time, and then in like a year's time I'm already doing a retreat and things like that. Like it just snowballs, and you'll come up with like problems, or you'll come up with somebody needing help with something, and that's when you go off on your tangent and you're like, right, well, I've got an idea that could help them with that. So I had a lot of instructors in my professional, or people who wanted to be instructors in my performer group. So the performing stuff wasn't necessarily for them, but they ran dance classes, and I've got loads of knowledge on dance classes because I've done it for like 20 years. So I was like, well, I can have like a secondary business for those people, teaching them how to get people into their classes and things like that. So they kind of just like naturally progressed over time. But I am very much a person who gets bored, and I come up with a new idea and I do have to rein it in so that I don't get overwhelmed. I have done over the past 4 years, I've probably had like millions of business ideas. Now I've got 5 businesses, but I could have easily like 50, but that's just like silly. Like I've not got time to do that. I have to really sit down and be like, right, no, that's enough. You've got enough stuff going on. You don't need to do that one right now.
Well, and I wonder if you're like me, and some of these business ideas are so, off the main kind of direction and the main vision of what you want life to be like, that you just, it's a very, very quick and simple. That would be amazing. I'd like to gift that idea to someone else. It doesn't align with everything else that I'm doing, the direction I want to be, and also the ideal client and the niche that I've created. And I know that all of your little businesses, I mean, not little, big businesses, but extensions of the main idea have all been very specific to the client and the niche that you served. And actually, you've just said something that I think is integral when building a business, is to listen to what your ideal client wants and needs, and then provide that service, especially if you've got the knowledge to do so. So in terms of growth and vision and niching, I would say that you are pretty much your ideal client. And I spoke about this in different episodes and over on my socials. An ideal client many times, often, is a version of you. So it's a version of the past you, needing that support, needing that information to build your success quicker. And you're gifting that to others. And then, you've got your training, because that's something that you had done in the past as well. And so it's just all a big building process and taking those steps. Talk to me about community in general, Kitty, because you are an absolute beloved part of our community, the PerformerPreneur community. You've been a member with me since day one, and a VIP client as well. So we have one-to-ones, and also a performer for Manic Stage Productions. Now, I was reflecting recently about community, and I think that is such a core value for me as a person. I love collaboration. I love community. I want to be around people. I want to share. I want the energy. I want to guide. I want to support. I want to help. So how has my community helped you, and how are you building on your community to continue to help other people?
Okay, so firstly, your community has helped with regards to, obviously in COVID, everybody needed that like daily check-in, a reassurance that everything was going to be all right. Like, I feel like that was really, really important. But over time, a lot of the people in your community I'm friends with, I've worked with, some work for me, some do like jobs for me, shows for me, admin for me. Like, you can always ask questions in there if you need something. Obviously, everybody's in the performing business as well, so they all have an idea of the kind of stuff that you would need as a performer, as well as like having their own like side businesses as well. So it's just a really good way of like connecting with people in the industry, as well as obviously business wise, knowing about how to create a side hustle and things like that. With regards to my community, it just kind of happened. I didn't like plan to create a community. It just grew. Like, I had about 10 people in it when I started it, and then now I think there's like over 2,000 people in it. And it's just grown over time. Some of those people are in like my multiple communities. So they're like performers that come to me for coaching, but they also are instructors for me. They get jobs off me. They do workshops for my big events. That it's just, and I've got people who like are in my entertainment company as well, who are from those communities. It just gives you all the chance to share jobs. So it's not just me giving out jobs to them. They all get to meet each other at these events, and then they obviously go off and they give jobs to each other. So I see them all like doing somebody's show or doing a workshop for somebody else. And that's come from essentially the meeting at our networking events or our in our Facebook community. I just think that's like so important, that you can't build a business if you've not got a network and you've not got a community. If you want to keep things to yourself and you don't want to share, people aren't going to share back with you, and you're just cutting your nose off to spite your face, because you can't do every job. You just can't. You can't help every client. You can't do all the things. Sometimes you need to pass it on to someone else. And when you pass on to someone else, they pass back to you, and the cycle continues. So I think it's real. For me, community over competition is enormous. I don't understand why everybody isn't in on that. I just think it's the way forward in any business.
I've tried to reflect on this over the years. And I think, you know, as performers, we're inherently programmed to be competitive. And so, you know, we just need to keep chipping away at that. People like you and I need to keep chipping away at that mindset, at that kind of programming that generation after generation of performers have been taught to be very closed and competitive. And our words will reach and ripple over time. And, you know, you and I are experiencing that with our sets of ideal clients and communities and niching. We're bringing the people, it's making ripples, they're finding us. And it feels like a slow process some days, but actually the ripple effect will go on and on and on. And we are building a very different industry. And I'm super proud of us. There's that saying, isn't there? Your net work is your net worth. And I think that's a very businessy saying, and I think if you're corporate you would hear that more than we do here, but it's very, very true. And so when you're looking to gain more knowledge, so going back to the listeners listening in today, and they found us and they're listening, and they you know, whatever reason they need support from you, I or others, it's that understanding your lack of knowledge or those gaps in your knowledge, and understanding the knowledge you have, and then finding the people to create community, to bridge those gaps with, to go on the journey with, and join those communities. So everyone's welcome in mine, they know that, but please tell everybody, Kitty, where to find you and your businesses, in case they want to join your community, which I wholeheartedly encourage them to do, because I just am watching you fly and know that the people you support are doing fantastic as professional performers now too, which is awesome. So share.
Okay, so my community is the Successful Showgirl. You can find that we've got a Facebook group, we've got an Instagram page, we've got a Facebook page, and then in any of those bio links you can click and you can join our free group. In there I post about our events, I post like motivational things. You can join our membership as well. We've got paid membership for the people who are more into really concentrating it as a business. Like, that's the thing that I would say. I think people need to realize that if this is going to be your job, you've got to run it as a business. You can't run it as a hobby like you might have done when you were younger. If you want to make money, you've got to think about how business people would do things. And there's not a lot of that out there for people to find. There's like your group, my group, there's some other mentors out there who do it really, really, really well. But then there are a lot of performers who run it as a really expensive hobby. So you've got to look at who you want to be like and think, are they the kind of person that I need to be following? Do they have the same values as me? Do they have the same goals? And then try and find out how you can learn from that person. It doesn't have to be yours. It could literally be anyone who's your idol in the industry. But deep down, you really have to know that it is a business, and you've one, got to pay for that information essentially the majority of the time, and two, you've just got to work.
Put in the time. Yeah, put in the time. Pay for the time and put in the time.
It's an investment in your business at the end of the day, and not just money, but time, networking, all those things are super, super important, like they will be in any industry.
So I think we've come full circle, and I'm just going to try and round it up and think of how I can bring this to a nice close. And I think we're there. I think it's the knowledge and the fear of maybe not knowing some of these things that people are listening in and hearing. It's like, oh my goodness, Kitty's gone from this to this and she's grown this, and there's a word there that I don't understand, and I've not got any business knowledge, and I haven't been taught this, and I've been a performer all my life, or I haven't and I want to be. Whatever those kind of fears are, I say this all the time, every emotion is a clue. If anything in this conversation has alerted you or triggered you or got you curious, then that is the clue to dig a little bit deeper. Don't be afraid to ask the question, to gain the knowledge, to do the work. And I think I mentioned it earlier about that Instagram kind of V's reality, that not many people are showcasing the other side of things, but it's these real conversations that I'm trying to have with members, experts, openly talking about my own situation, that will hopefully break down some of those barriers. That you are super successful, Kitty. You're an absolute powerhouse in terms of vision, creating, taking action and building these businesses. But also, this conversation today, it's been frank. It's not been straightforward. It's not been easy. You've pivoted, you've changed, you've grown, you've asked, you've paid. And so I think that's the lovely end to this conversation. I'm just kind of trying to find the words to gift everybody listening that these things are absolutely possible. You can do and be whatever you want to be. And lean into your gut feeling, your core values, the knowledge you already have, and then be prepared to work hard and to build it on top, and keep going and keep going and keep going, and find the people that will cheer you along the way as well. Would you like to add anything else to that? Would you agree? Would you, what are your thoughts? How would you round this episode off, Kitty?
I would round it off with everything that you just said, but more importantly, don't listen to the negative people, because there's always going to be negative people. And even if you idolize those people, you don't have to take on board whatever they say. You can take advice with a pinch of salt, and you can listen, but you don't have to take it as gospel. That would be my main advice. I think that's the thing that puts most people off. That's where people stop in their tracks because somebody said something negative to them and they actually truly respect that person. So it's like put them off. So take advice with a pinch of salt, even from us. It's your life, it's your job, you pay your own bills, you do things your own way.
Perfect. I've got a few questions to ask you about that, but we can't keep going on and on. My thoughts are going, I wonder who Kitty told no to when she was meant to be a doctor, and then she was like, absolutely not, I'm going to be a performer. I just want to know how that panned out. Can you do it in a sentence? Obviously worked out for you, but was it traumatic at the time?
No, I had a clear vision in my head that I didn't want to do it, and I wanted to be a dance teacher, but obviously everyone around me thought it was nuts. But now everyone I know would say it's the best decision that I ever made, even though they thought I was a bit mental at the time.
Because you followed joy, and there's a whole episode coming up about that as well. And I think, we are only here once. So listeners, whatever you want to do and be, find the joy, find the support, and go on and do it, and don't listen to all the negative comments. Kitty, I'm going to post all of your links in the blurb below. Find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, and please, please, please do like, share, write some comments. And if you know somebody that's listening that would love to listen, then please do pass that on as well. Kitty, you've been a pleasure. I love supporting you. I love being part of your world, and I thank you for your talents. And we didn't even touch on little Penny. Kitty's a wonderful mum now as well. And I've got to just say this, all of this that she has built has now gifted you the freedom to spend time with Penny over these next, forever. They don't go away, do they? But these really important early years as well. So that's very inspirational. And I know people in the performing industry might be considering kind of, what does life look like when I want to move away and start a family? So please go follow Kitty, because she's juggling all the balls. And let's leave it there. Otherwise we can keep going on. Have a fabulous day, Kitty. And thank you so much.
Thanks so much for having me.
Bye-bye. Okay, guys, that's it for today. I hope you've enjoyed the show. Thank you for joining me here on the Showbiz Side Hustle podcast. So until next time, please do take a little bit of action, that very first step, and make sure that you are doing something for you and your Showbiz Side Hustle this week to move you forward and get you heading quickly and swiftly and strategically towards success.